When AI takes over, you will all lose your jobs. The ONS have estimated that up to 1.5 million jobs in England alone are at a high risk of automation. The Institute for Public Policy and Research warn that in a worst case scenario will lead to an additional 8 million UK jobs that could be displaced. We're now talking about potential whopping 23 to 24% of the UK population unemployed. And no one is talking about this. A change is going to come, and it's going to be exponential. We cannot stop technical progress, and I don't want to, but we can shape its impact. If you care enough to be bothered, you can make a difference to your life now. I don't want you to wait until AI hurts. I don't want you to wait to wake up and make a plan. I need you to create a second income, because the most AI secure income, let's be honest, is...
Hello and welcome. My name's Vicki Wusche. As you know, this is very definitely not a tech podcast. If anything, I'm a digital muppet. Added to which, I'm recording this episode in advance of the Chancellor's autumn budget, which is due out next week. Everything I do, I now believe, can be crystallized into one sentence. I want you to always ask better questions, to challenge the status quo, to step up and take responsibility within your grasp so that you can live the life that you want. Granted, that was quite a long sentence, but bear with me on that. This week's episode and the coming mini-series is wandering into AI territory, not from the tech perspective, as I said. I'm going to start with a little bit of doom and gloom because that's the only way to get people motivated. But I'm going to move on to the fact that this is a revolutionary period. Whether it does turn out to be doom and gloom or whether it turns out to be a period of enlightenment and prosperity, we will see. But what I want to do is update you with a couple of facts that have already occurred in just the last 3 weeks that it's taken me to write and record the episode you're about to listen to and get it edited and published. Things have changed. So the first change is at the end of October, Amazon announced 14,000 job losses that they put down to AI. Now, they were talking about getting rid of 500,000 warehouse workers and delivery drivers, and everybody was looking in that direction to those low-level jobs. But these 14,000 are middle management, office-based work. Those are the people that have lost their jobs. And I'll put a link in the show notes to the news article that appeared on the BBC that you can have a read if you want. Now, Amazon is not a company that is struggling. This article included someone based in the States who was going on about how this is the natural ebb and flow of business. We've had COVID, businesses did certain things, and now they're doing different things because of the economy. I understand that. But Amazon has been growing 13% year on year. So this isn't a reorganization based out of a need to save costs. The article also goes on to mention a couple of other companies, a company called Chegg, if I've pronounced it properly, an online education firm who are talking about the new realities of AI, has actually reduced its workforce by 45%. Salesforce, the online software that a lot of businesses use to sort of manage their sales process, has cut 4,000 customer services roles just last month because the chief executive says AI agents were doing the work. And UPS, the delivery people, another version of Amazon, if you like, but without the shopping put in, has cut, 48,000 jobs since last year. Now, I would imagine that the Salesforce and the UPS jobs are global roles, not just based in the UK. I haven't delved into where these are, but the point is there are big numbers now coming through as redundancies, in part because of machine learning and machine capabilities. And there was an article by fortune.com which said of the changes that Amazon brought about, those 14,000 job losses, that it could offer an early glimpse of how AI is actually reshaping the labour force. And that's what I'm going to be talking about. It's not the immediate displacement of those tactile, mundane, factory-based roles that are going to require a robot to go over them, because that's what we thought was going to happen. But it's actually attacking the white-collar ranks. And that, guys, is you. And that's what I want this episode to do, to wake you up to the fact that a change is coming. We hope that it's going to be for the positive, but it could also impact your wealth, your wealthy life, the bottom line of how much money you have coming into your family. So have a listen. Please feel free to argue with me. I am totally open to other views of this, and you'll see that over the next couple of episodes. It's not all going to be me being doom and gloom. I have got other people who have got different opinions coming on. What we need to do is ask better questions. What we need to do is be aware. So listen to this episode. I hope you enjoy, and I look forward to your comments. AI, will it lead to a wealthy life
or a whole heap of pain. In the time it takes me to record this video, a new AI application will have been created and thousands more people will be put out of a job. Think about that for a minute. And this is huge. When AI takes over, you will all lose your jobs. And where will the government get the tax income to fund the benefits system, the healthcare system, the police and the dustmen? Oh, actually, police and dustmen, Ben, will be the only ones to still have a job until the robots come. If government can't fund the benefit system that you need now because you're unemployed, how will you pay your mortgage, buy food, live a life worth living even? And no one is talking about this. Well, today as I report that, of course, no one is talking about it. Maybe that will have changed by the time we edit the video. Yes, you can listen to podcasts that are warning of the dangers of super AI, those self-aware, self-managing and replicating lines of code that will take over the world, just like in a Hollywood movie. AI security is a big topic. But where are the podcasts about the impact of AI on us, the ordinary people? Our income, our wealth, our lives, and our existence in this period now, when we've got emerging AI apps and narrow AI functionality, and the next 2 to 3 years when the real impact on the workforce will become apparent. If you think I'm wrong, save this video, make a note in your diary, and check the unemployment figures and let me know. And when they hit 10%, 20%, 50%, what will you do then? And it won't be long. Now, this video is not designed or meant to scare you, but frankly, humans are a generally lazy and self-interest lot of beings. We rarely do anything without motivation. And the greatest motivators, of course, are pain and pleasure. And I want you to have a life of pleasure, of love and fun, and a job that you love, a wealthy life, so that you can do whatever you want. But you need an income, and that's dependent either on a salary or some form of investment that will generate an independent set of second income for you. In autumn 2025, I recorded and released a video course on YouTube called Escape the 9 to 5. And while researching, I realized that a long distance retirement wasn't the only threat to your future happiness. It was actually the threat of retirement and redundancy brought about by emerging AI on an unsuspecting British workforce that are wholly unprepared and unqualified for this new world. I don't want you to wait until AI hurts. I don't want you to wait to wake up and make a plan. I need you to create a second income because the most AI secure income, let's be honest, is providing a decent home to decent families. To become a property landlord while you still have a job and you still have time. Let me just explain that for a moment. I'm doing my best to alert you to the fact that in the next 2 to 3 years, a change is going to come and it's going to be exponential. And I think you can agree with me that you're starting to get a sense of that. You're starting to get a sense of the speed of change that is coming. That speed of change is going to include potentially you losing your job. If not you, your partner, maybe your children, maybe your siblings, someone close to you is going to lose their job because of AI. Now, if your whole family is based on the fact that your life is funded from a job that will no longer be guaranteed and be there in the future, you need a second income. And when I've been looking at all of this, yes, I'm biased towards property investment, but when I've been looking at this, the one thing that we all need is food, housing, and actually, interestingly, entertainment. And so, what are the jobs that are going to be left at the end? Now, some of those jobs can be taken over by AI, and we'll talk about those later. Houses might be built by AI, but being that landlord, the person who owns the property, who acknowledges that a tenant is going to come in, that is going to pay you rent, that is a job that no AI can take over. And in fact, that's not true because I think AI will start being able to invest in its own assets and fund itself. But that's a whole paranoid moment that we won't go down. But as it stands at the moment, you could start investing in property, create a second income that's independent of your job. So if AI takes your job, you will be prepared. As I mentioned in my introduction, AI is new and frankly an unstoppable event. As with the Industrial Revolution of the mid-17 to mid-1800s, when we started with steam engines, Britain was the first industrialized nation. We're not going to be the first AI nation. We know that that is America, swiftly followed by other countries. But that new steam engine, those steam-driven machines, started to replace the manual labor. Whether it was weaving or spinning, you found that there was this massive shift in the way that people were employed. Today, AI is starting to replace not the muscle power, but the mental power, the decision making, the analysis, even creativity. During the Industrial Revolution, many jobs were lost, and that was from artisans to farm workers. Now, what we're looking at during the AI revolution is bringing it into the office for retail workers, for transport, call centers, legal, and even financial jobs. I think both eras are going to see that we'll bring about fear of unemployment and actually loss of identity. As each new change, the impact of AI will be outside of our current scope of understanding. I can't even predict the impact of something that I don't fully understand. That potential. What we can see is that AI is both an opportunity and a threat. But I want to spend some time in this video focusing on the risk to UK workers, to you. During the Industrial Revolution, it was the factory owners and the industrialists that gained wealth, while many of their workers faced poor pay and harsh conditions, some even facing job losses. Today, it's the tech giants, the early adopters, that are set to reap massive profits from AI, while you, the displaced worker, face unemployment, downvaluing, maybe the risk of lower wages, or even a shift towards more insecure gig type work. Both the Industrial Revolution and the forthcoming AI revolution have and will redefine the role of work in society. It's not so much that your children will be doing jobs that we haven't even thought of. We haven't even thought that there may not be a job for your children to do. Consider this: the Industrial Revolution brought with it urbanization, child labor, slums. But on the positive side, it brought about eventually public education, reforms, unions, even. Now, what for the AI revolution? It threatens mass unemployment, and with that, the inconceivable impact on mental health and stress levels. Not only through the financial impact of the job losses, but through the personal impact of your loss of identity, your daily structure and routine, and of course, your value and sense of self worth. On the positive side, there are talks about a universal income support, like universal basic income, which is an idea being generated by Sam Altman. Of course, we will adapt. We did in the 1800s, but it took decades for society to adapt to the changes that were brought about by the Industrial Revolution. Over decades. Now, there are new laws, there are better education, better health and safety, and all of that has been created to support the public, in part because of the resistance. The newly powerful people felt political pressure to change. Can you hear anyone making noises to protect you? New jobs came with change. Eventually, we had engineers, teachers, managers, even clerks. They all emerged as new job roles. And with AI, we will quickly adapt. But will it be quickly enough? Can you fund yourself through decades of change until a new role emerges? And of course, you're going to have to retrain for that new role, probably to support AI in their dominance in the field of work. Some new jobs are emerging, like AI ethics, data training, human AI collaboration roles. But will they be enough? And will they be accessible to all? Did your son or your daughter learn about this in school last year? Are they going to university this year to study something that will be worthwhile and will make them employable in the new AI universe? But more about that later. We cannot stop technical progress, and I don't want to, but we can shape its impact. If you care enough to be bothered, you can make a difference to your life now, even while still listening to me and watching this video. How about leaving a comment? I'd love to know what you think. Do you feel prepared? Do you feel worried? Do you want to make a difference so that you are prepared and protected from the changes to come? Maybe now is the time to remind you to save this video, download it if you can, and of course, subscribe if you want. I have loads of resources on my YouTube channel that might be of interest to you. So, what are your thoughts? What are you worried about? Are you worried about your job? You should be. The point is, education, even regulation, and human resistance are key to shaping our futures, rather than face a future that has been designed by someone else that frankly only wants world dominance and trillions of dollars. We need to consider the scale and the risk of AI and the impact that that may have on our lives. So, why does this matter now? Let's have a look at some of the UK automation and industrialization figures. And I want to share with you some of the stats that are going to be shocking. Transport, retail, law, and even call centers are all at risk. I looked at some studies from the following companies. And it's not just going to be the blue collar jobs that are affected. White collar jobs will also be affected. We're going to be looking at income polarization. Those that can adapt will have higher productivity in their companies. They will be making the money, and there's going to be stagnant wages, which we already know that we're facing for everybody else that remains in work. And of course, no wages at all for those that are displaced. What is this going to mean for the middle class? Let's have a look at that. Society is going to be under pressure. Take, for example, if unemployment rises, what impact will that have? Yes, there'll be the financial costs, but there's going to be mental health challenges, strain on welfare and benefits, of course. And with this possible rise of inequality could come unrest. There's going to be a cultural shift too. How do we define work and with that identity and even our value in society? If we're not working, what are we contributing? We're all going to have more time on our hands, more time than ever before. And while that's a positive, let's consider what that could mean to the different age groups. Let's start with the young. Look at young people leaving education, whether it's at 18 or as a university student with a degree. Will that degree have any value? Their whole lives ahead of them. What now? An online world full of gaming, maybe the poor health comes with sitting around, boredom, mental health issues, and potentially a rise in drug use. All of that potential gone to waste, and then unrest through boredom, maybe even increased vandalism. Think of the film The Purge. So, what about the young career professional? Possibly a new parent with maybe a new and hefty mortgage. What will this do to them? There'll be stress, financial agony, potentially the repossession of their house and homelessness. Maybe they have to go back to living with their parents. They'll have no real identity and insufficient mental or financial resilience to fight back. There'll be a sense of resignation, despondency, and even depression. What about the impact on the middle-aged worker? Lots of experience. Maybe you watching this video, you might be out of work way too soon. Yes, you wanted to escape the 9 to 5, but now you want to come back. Do you have the energy to retrain? Will the training programs even accept you, or will they focus on retraining the young? And now you'll be facing the humiliation. You'll have to take any job possible to support your family, especially when your kids and grandchildren arrive on your doorstep. The pressure to provide will exceed anything you've ever experienced before. You thought you were close to retirement, and now you're out on your ear. Just a tad too early to feel financially secure. You're going to be stressed, mentally exhausted, potentially depressed, and hopeless. Now, if you don't believe me, here are the stats. AI and the jobs that are coming are going to make a real difference to the statistics that we have ever seen before. The ONS, who is the Office of National Statistics, have estimated that up to 1.5 million jobs in England alone are at a high risk of automation. If you actually look at that, at the moment we've got just 4 to 5% of the population that are in a position where they are unemployed. Now you're going to add an additional 4 to 5% on top of that with the AI risk. That's closing in on 10%. Now, remember I mentioned to you to start monitoring the unemployment rates? We could see unemployment heading towards 10% as early as 2027. But it gets worse. The PPR, the Institute for Public Policy and Research, warn that in a worst case scenario, a second wave of AI adoption will lead to an additional 8 million UK jobs that could be displaced, especially in the entry level, part-time administrative roles. And of course, here we go. Women are going to be out of work and the younger workers as well. These are all particularly vulnerable groups. So we're now talking about potential whopping 23 to 24% of the UK population unemployed, on top of that 10% that we already had. At this point, it doesn't even matter because we're talking over a quarter of the UK population unemployed. Now, together, these statistics paint a picture of urgent, widespread risk, particularly for routine, early career, and low paid roles. Let's just think about that 25 to 30% of formerly working adults now out of work. Income tax in 2024 amounted to, hold this figure, £305 billion of income generated for the government. Now, add that to national insurance figures in 24 to 25, and national insurance brought in around £171 billion in that same period. That's all the money going into the government that funds, and I've only just picked this out, benefit payments for those that are unemployed. Your national insurance contributions and your tax that you pay through your wages are then funded back in to support people that are out of work and fund the government. Let's look at that combined revenue. In the UK, we're talking about, I'm going to talk about £500 billion. To be precise, 476 billion. Now, if you imagine that 25% of that evaporates, we're talking about £119 billion wiped off the face of the government's funding. And in autumn 2025, the Chancellor was worrying about a 50 billion black hole, and that was one black hole. You're now going to have £120 billion cumulative annually. This deficit is going to happen on an annual basis because these people aren't going to be out of work this year and back in work next year. They're going to be out of work this year and next year and the year after, with more people joining them. So if you then look at the cost of sickness benefit and unemployment benefit, we've got to run the NHS, the police, and everything else. We're talking about billions of pounds. We'll do the maths and we'll just look at what this cost is going to be annually. Now, I thought to myself, if we have 25% more people unemployed and 119 billion less coming in tax, how are we going to fund those unemployed people? We simply can't. We cannot generate enough money. So we're going to look to the uber rich that have been making money from AI, and we're going to ask them to pay more tax. Well, we already know what happens with the corporates at the moment. And I'm not going to name names, but whether you want to think about your coffee companies or your delivery companies, they just place themselves in countries where the income tax, the business taxes are less. How are we going to make the money in the UK to fund our people that are out of work? If the current cost of benefit rises from £1 billion to 25% more people needing support, we could be looking at a projection of 30,000 within years. We're going to need an additional £6 billion coming in. But where will we get that money? And not only do we need 6 billion more, we've got 120 billion less. They're just numbers upon numbers. It's totally unimaginable and unsustainable. I just want to reinforce this bit about job losses. PricewaterhouseCoopers did an analysis back in 2018, and they estimated that after adjusting for real-world barriers, up to 40% of jobs in transportation and storage could be affected by automation over the coming 2 decades. We're already a decade in. Driverless vehicles aren't just sci-fi. They're here. They're in the States. They will pick you up and drive you places. Can you imagine the impact of 40% of transport jobs going in the next 10 years? Let's look at finance, law, and media, those things that you take your degree for. In 2025, Deloitte did a study, and that said 37% of those roles may face partial or complete automation. So even in law, media, and finance, jobs that feel secure now are actually exposed to automation. And if we look at accountancy, around 25% of chartered and certified accountancy jobs in the UK are at a high risk of automation. So even your accountant is going to turn out to be an AI app. If we look at those back-end roles, whether you're considering the reports from the IPPR, we're going to see those to be the first amongst the disrupted by generative AI. There'll be scheduling, databases. All that sort of work is going to easily be taken over by AI programs. And then if we look at things like retail and customer-facing roles, we'll have inventory systems that can take over the back office. But how long before we're talking to a screen with somebody in some central office speaking to you? There won't be people in the room anymore. So what we need to do is consider how we can make these changes. Because whether you're going to be a graduate coming out into an entry-level job or you've qualified to more senior roles, ChatGPT's release in 2022 has already seen and caused a 32% drop in vacancies for those entry-level roles, whether it's internships or apprenticeships. We just don't need to take the young people into these roles because we can program a robot to do it better for us. AI does it better. They don't get sick. They don't have hangovers. They don't come in late. They're self-motivated. All the things that we need to give our young people a chance to learn and grow to. Now, I asked the internet, and chat very kindly replied to me, what efforts were government doing to prepare the workforce, as I mentioned earlier, with the advent of AI? And it pulled up a research piece from the University of Georgia, where they studied what different countries were doing towards this coming change. There are 11 European countries that have started to make a change. And while they don't specifically name them, they have cited 4 of them. And what they're talking about is examples of how these countries are preparing the workforce. Let's take Germany. They're actively cultivating a culture of AI awareness, lifelong learning, and strategically focusing on education and reskilling young people. Look at Spain. They're leading the efforts in early AI education. Even preschoolers are being taught foundational AI skills, forward thinking to help workforce development. Where is that in the UK? Are your children at nursery, preschool, primary school, even secondary school learning about AI and how to work with it? If we then look at France, through their initiatives, they're scaling up AI training to move from just 40,000 people to over 100,000 people a year being funded in AI clusters. They're making huge strides in upskilling their workforce. And then consider Estonia. I had a flat there once. They're rolling out a nationwide program to equip their students and teachers with the AI tools and training to change the way education is delivered and received. Now, can I just point out that upskilling you by 2023 is already too late if the losses are predicted to start within the next 5 years? What we need to do is move the pace forward. We cannot afford to wait for government. Okay, so that's enough doom and gloom. What can we do about it? Let me ask you this question. Do you want to wait for the government? Do you want to wait for them to act through regulation, through safety nets, to put up training courses that I haven't even started to advertise? Or do you want to take control? Business could be said to have a role in reskilling their workforce. But again, are you going to rely on your employer? Because ultimately that'll be for their benefit, not yours. Do you want to see whether they think augmentation is better over replacement? I know which is going to be cheaper. They're going to go for replacing you. Now, we can take responsibility as individuals to commit to lifelong learning, to increase our adaptability, to master digital skills. But is that going to be enough of a guarantee to keep you employed? Can you imagine what you need to learn in terms of skills to keep yourself employed for jobs that you don't know have even been invented because we are still creating the AI that is going to kick you out of the role that you're in now? And this is how I can help you future proof yourself. As I said right at the beginning, you need to create an income that is AI proof. And I spent a long time thinking about this. I wanted to write a book way back in the spring. And in the time it's taken me to plan from May to September, so much has already changed. So I decided that I was going to make this video. It's a quick way so that I could share my message. I want you to create an AI proof income. So when I looked at those job losses and I looked at the impact of boredom, the loss of income, what was it that I could do? What could I share with you? Now, the robots will come and that will shift everything. But in this first phase, what is it that we need? So if we're going to have a life of pleasure, what roles will be there to support us? And I don't mean that sort of personal services. What I mean is things like your hairdresser, your nail technician, somebody who does facial implants and beauty products. Now, we do know that hairdressing as a business sector has really suffered through COVID because a lot of people started dyeing their own hair. But I still think that there is something around that beauty sector that I don't know that we want a robot actually cutting our hair or painting our nails. And that's a long way off. So maybe there's some longevity there. What about your meals out? Now, until we get the robot waiters, we're going to have wait staff. But I think that that means chefing is a job that's going to have a degree of longevity. That finessing the plate, a robot to taste just feels like something that we're going to have to wait a long time for. What about swim lessons? What about massages? What else can you think of that you will do with your time that's going to give you pleasure when you are not at work anymore and that is fairly robot proof? Is that a job that you could start to think of as a business opportunity? And that could be a way that you create a second income. But then after thinking about that, I still think our whole high street and the way that we work is going to completely alter. It's going to be pleasure focused. It's going to be about speed and automation. And have you worked it out yet? I'm still back at that point where I was before, investing in property and becoming a landlord because people will still need somewhere to live. And an AI program and a robot can't do that for you. If unemployment increases and we face a global recession like we did in 2008, repossessions of property will climb and the rental market will grow. If you invest in property now, then you could create an income that is working now to protect you from potential unemployment, but also providing that nest egg and a monthly cash flow to help you when the changes come. All the while, you're going to be housing people in need. So it's both personally beneficial to you, but also contributing to society. Because again, we can't afford to house everyone. The government isn't doing enough as it is now when it's still got all that income. So before you get cross, I was clear at the start that I would explain how AI could save you from unemployment, from stress and depression. And if you want to explore whether this is an option, I created a whole new course for you on YouTube called Escaping the 9 to 5. When I was recording that, it was about understanding how we could retire from work. And it was through that I realized that there was actually more to leaving your job than met the eye. Because you don't want to wait for retirement. You actually want to have a reason to prepare for a second income, because it's that second income that's going to give you the choice to retire when you want. And that might not be an option to wait 10 or 15 years. You might not have that choice. The choice might be made for you. So if you want to learn more, you can do one of three things. You can watch the new video, Escape the 9 to 5 Through Property. It's a complete course to get you thinking about how you can determine your own future. And if you don't need convincing and you want to learn even more about property, I've got a course called How to Become a Successful Property Investor. And that includes personal strategy time with me to help you on the way. Maybe you need to simply go through your own personal finances and become more financially educated and make your own plan. I also wrote a course designed for women called The Smart Woman's Ultimate Guide to Money and Investing. It's got tons of resources to help you. And of course, if you're too busy to learn how and you're ready to talk about building a property portfolio with my help, maybe that's the answer to the retirement or the AI replacement strategy that you need, you can book a call. Now, I hope I'm wrong. And I hope it's not a Hollywood script that has come to life. I have grandchildren, one that's just months old. What will their future look like? I hope it's going to be better than the outcome in the Terminator movie. But let me be wrong. Please be wrong. And even if I'm just a little bit right and you don't take this opportunity to prepare your own personal finances, I know you're going to regret that. So, as I've asked before, please subscribe to my channel. Watch the courses that I have created. Listen to my podcast, A Wealthy Life. Again, that's available on YouTube. And maybe please share this video. Let's get talking and planning about the impact that AI is going to have on our lives, our jobs, and our futures. And of course, take action. Whether that's booking a call with me so we can start the process to plan and build your property portfolio and income from providing those decent houses to decent families. Or maybe you still need to learn. Whatever it is, do something.